Ba weep, grana weep, ninny bong. I'm Engineer Hoist, and we're here to take a look at the latest figure from Planet X, Ismenios, their version of Deathsaurus. Planet X became renowned for their outstanding Fall of Cybertron-inspired figures. Ismenios is the first figure that's not based on characters from that game. Even so, his name derives from mythology just like those that came before him. The name Ismenios comes from the Greek story Drakon Ismenios, or the Ismenian dragon. The story itself doesn't appear to have too much to do with Deathsaurus, other than the fact that his alt mode is essentially a Cybertronian dragon. If you're curious about the story, you can check out the link in the description. But you didn't come here for a history lesson, so let's head over to the review desk and check him out. Alright, so here we are with Ismenios, or Ismenios, depends on how you want to say it. I think both ways are perfectly fine. He's in his dragon mode now. It is very much like a bird, kind of a dragon there. But, you know, he's got some seriously sharp teeth over here. They're nicely painted in silver. He's got sharp gold claws on both of his arms, and they are individually articulated, and they are quite sharp. It can be a little painful when you're unfolding them going this other direction because they are quite sharp. That's why they do put the hey, above 16 or whatever the age is on these higher quality figures. But this wingspan is just absolutely amazing. I mean, look at this. This is what it's got fully extended with all of the extra little pieces, the translucent pieces in there, including these little bits on here. And the wings are actually fairly well articulated. You can raise them up and down on a friction joint. You got a nice ratchet back, forward and back. Plus, you can also extend them out even farther to get a huge reach and just take up like all the space. Now, this does make it a little difficult to transform. You could totally transform it with all of that in place, but it does make it a little difficult with having such gigantic wings. He's so big, I can't even get him fully on camera. But you know, you got the nice detailing. I'm pretty sure this part here is die cast. You've got his feet down here. Each of these claws are individually articulated as well, including the little back claw. And there's his tail. It's articulated a little bit. You can pretty much just get up and down a little ways, but it's not completely stationary. So like I said, these wings are a little bit in the way. Now in the back here, he's got a little bit of a cavity there. That's where his little partner, his breast component actually fits. So obviously that's going to end up being his chest. And I don't know if you could tell, there's like a little arrow saying, hey, put it right here. So that's what it looks like. Otherwise, it's kind of plain. I think that's pretty true to the G1 or whatever. Although this guy is more evocative of the IDW representation. Now, as far as his neck, he is quite expressive with his neck. He's got 3 or 4 different ball joints, so you can have him looking one side or another, up quite a bit, down. You know, you can twist it all the ways that you want. The mouth does open to chomp on things, or it closes up if he just wants to look off in the distance silently and ponder things. But yeah, so very impressive and very stable also. The joints are all nice and very tight. And let me try to angle that so we don't have such a glare on it. But yeah, so his little component, they don't name him they give him a third-party name, but this is his tiger breast component, although I guess he's like a winged tiger, a flying tiger or something like that. And he's actually really, really nice. So yeah, so it does actually look like his mouth would open because it is 2 different pieces or whatever, but that's pretty much locked in place there. He can wag his little tail. And he's got a little knee joint on each of his legs, plus also a joint there up under at the hip on each of these different legs. And but otherwise, that's pretty much it for this guy. He's obviously meant more to be the chest minion for Ismenios, aka Deathsaurus, there in the robot mode. So speaking of that robot mode, let's go ahead and start that transformation now, shall we? Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and flip in his little tail, and then we flip in his little legs here. You kind of gotta go ahead and bend them and just kind of shove them up, and there's a little bit of a area in there for them to go. And these are very tight. It's very difficult to get them out, actually, when you're transforming it back into his little animal mode. So once you get it up in there, it's kind of tight to get out. You might have to use a tool or something, but otherwise, there you go, and he's basically ready to go as the chest piece for Ismenios. So now, to make this a little bit easier, we are going to take off all of these little pieces. So that includes all of these couple of little pieces here on the top. They just kind of sit up there on that, and we'll set them off to the side. Now on these wings, if we can get a good angle on them, they actually do tab in. There's a little tab here, goes into a little slot on the insert, and there's a couple of other tabs on the insert that goes into slots up underneath, and that's true for all of these. So we'll go ahead and just take these off, and I don't think you need to see me taking all of them off, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that and come back to you once all that's done. Okay, so now we've got all those plastic parts, those clear translucent parts out, and so all we do now is just kind of fold this up. It is kind of on a little double hinge on each of these little parts here, and they just collapse up into a nice, tight, off-camera wing. Let me try that again, see if I can keep it on camera. So we'll go ahead and just collapse this up right here, and again, and again. And so that's still pretty impressive, but it doesn't take up nearly the amount of space as it does with all those inserts in. And we can just kind of fold these back and get them out of the way a little bit, so we got a little bit more room to work with. And they do fold up pretty nicely there on his back. Alright, so let's go ahead and get down to transformation with this guy. It's going to get messy before it gets neat again. One of the things I like to do is kind of go ahead and fold up his arms to get them a little bit out of the way, get them a little more compact. And then basically what we do is we need to go ahead and unpeg his back legs and spin them around and just kind of get them out of the way for now. And they're just going to kind of hang out there for most of this transformation. And even the wings can move out of the way. One thing that would have been nice is if they could have rotated up here, and they don't. So don't do that. I've tried to do that a few times, and then you can kind of see that's about all you could do, and just catch yourself before you snap that off. But it would have been nice if they could have rotated, because you really kind of want to. All right, so then we go through and take this part and get that out. Now there is a certain way to open these up, because it is kind of a T-notch here on the one side, so you do kind of need to open the one side versus before the other, and also the other way, close it in the opposite direction. And then you kind of, if you've had any kind of experience with Combiner Wars or Power of the Primes, you're familiar with this particular leg transformation, and it works pretty well. And it tabs in, and then now we really want to split this. We don't want to close those doors up just yet. We want to go ahead and split the legs and split the tail, because the tail folds up into the legs. So what you do, first thing you do is spin this part around, fold it up, and then rotate it up into the leg, close the back, and do the same thing on the other side. Spin it around, fold it up, rotate it up, close the door. And then he's also got these toe pieces. I'm pretty sure these are die cast, which is good. Gives him a little bit of extra weight at the bottom of the figure. And he's also got a little piece here on his crotch that you rotate up. And then you give him a nice little spin at the waist. There you go. And All right, so yeah, so we got that part done, and now we want to go ahead and untab these parts here with the wings, and they kind of fold out. And now the neck of the dragon unpegs. You can see there's a couple of pegs and peg holes there. And then we pull this away and open the door, and there's his head, and we want to go ahead and bring that out. He's kind of spiky. It's pretty secure, but you know, just like with any small piece, excess force could be a problem, so just be careful with that. And then we close up this door, and it does tab into the little piece that his head is resting on, so you will need to make sure that's perfectly lined up to go in. And once it has, you're good to go. And then the head kind of just hangs off the back over here. Okay, so now that we're at this point, what we do is we rotate this part around, if we can, with the leg until, where is it? Okay, so you can see there's a little tab here. So you rotate that around and just kind of fold this back, and it's going to tab into the slot here on the back of the dragon neck. And then we can rotate the dragon arm around and tuck that in and fold down his wing, and we'll do that on the other side. So we've got the little tab, we'll accordion this around, tab that in, rotate, rotate, and fold, spin him around. So now we can finally do the arms. So these are the legs that we took off, and they've just been kind of hanging there. You can see there's a clip up here and a tab on the arm, and you just kind of fold this up, and there's a little post hole here and another little guide post there. So you kind of line all that up, tabs in nice and secure. Same thing on the other side. There we go. We're in the home stretch now, folks. Give this a little spin, and we can fold the dragon leg down, and we can actually fold in this back claw, give a little bit more room. So now we lift up this gold piece, and then there's also another little piece to fold out of there. Let's see how well I do with that with no fingernails. Don't bite your nails, kids, because it makes transforming stuff hard, although I did manage to do that pretty well. Okay, so now we've got that done, and there is a blue piece back here. We can go ahead and punch that through, or push that through. It does help make the transformation go. So you can see his hand is starting to come through there, and then you just rotate this whole thing back. The hand will come out, and also fold this leg back just to get as much room as you can, and close that up. And there is one arm done. You know how this works. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So we'll go ahead and rotate this around, fold all this off camera so that you can't see. We'll lift up this piece here and try to get this out relatively easily. Oh my goodness, it's working well for me on camera, which is totally opposite of how things usually go. And push that little blue piece in to kind of help bring the hand out, and then get up in there and get the hand out. And if it doesn't, just keep rotating the leg back, because it will help also bring the hand out a little bit. This one is a little extra tight compared to the other side, but we get it out. We close it up, and there he is, topless right now. But we can fix that because we bring in tiger breast, and you can see he's got a few peg holes there, or pegs, and then the peg holes on his tiger breast piece here. You line that up and push that in, and there you have Ismenios, aka Deathsaurus in his robot mode. Let me see if I can adjust this camera a little bit so we can get him totally in frame just about. So there you go. He is a big one. He's definitely one of the larger figures that Planet X has ever done. Obviously, their Omega Supreme and Trypticon, the Genesis and Armageddon figures are much larger. But other than them, I think he's probably the largest so far. He does come also with a sword. Now, if we look a little closer at this, it does have what appears to be Cybertronian writing on it, but I tried to translate this, but I was not able to. I may be looking at the wrong Cybertronian font, but I'm not entirely sure if this can be translated, because looking closely at it, there are some symbols that are repeated and then also mirrored farther down and also inverted, so I'm not entirely sure if this is actually meant to say anything or just look cool. So if anybody out there happens to have translated this and knows what it says, let me know. Let me see. Deathsaur. There's enough letters for it to say Deathsaurus. I don't think that's actually what it says, but we'll go with that. So let's take a look at his hands here. He does have individually articulated fingers, so you can totally have him give you the finger or throw up the devil horns if you want to make him a metalhead or something like that. But he also can hold his sword, as you might expect. There's a little tab on the inside of his hand and a slot on the sword, so you just kind of get that in there, and you rotate it onto that. Wrap his fingers around it just like you do when you hold a sword. And guess what? Now he's holding his sword. It holds on there usually pretty good. I didn't get it on there that well, but there you go. Deathsaurus with his sword and everything. He does have a little bit of ankle articulation just here on the toes, really, because the rest of his leg is mostly just a brick. But there he is. And this is not at all what his G1 representation looks like. I mean, it's close, but this is almost identical to what his IDW representation is. So that is actually what I think it's more based on. One more thing that you can do with these little plastic pieces, if I can remember how to do it, they can actually be attached to form a shield. And so what you want to do is you take these, and there is a little tab and a notch that you can put them together, something like that, and then you take the smallest piece and you can line up these pegs and holes and put it all together and have some kind of a shield. Again, totally not like the G1 shield, but it is still a shield like Deathsaurus is known for. And it can be wielded on either arm, but typically it would be the one opposite to where your sword is. So we'll put it on this side. It's got a hole here up in the corner, and you just choose whichever one of these pegs. On this side, there's really just one peg, so that's the one we'll use. And you kind of just line that up. Maybe you got to straighten his arm out because for clearance purposes. I thought it held a little bit better. See, there's always something that goes wrong on camera. Okay, maybe it's not that one. How about this one? Yeah, that one seems to be holding it a little bit better. So yeah, there he is, and he's got his shield and his sword. He's ready to do battle with just pretty much anybody who comes and threatens him. He's got all the standard articulation. You saw the waist articulation as part of the transformation. He's got great joints at the hips. His knees are pretty good. The arms, I think, are a little less than 90 degrees or whatever. That's fine. He's got the wing articulation still here. And you can obviously put these inserts in the wing to give him a huge span. But again, that just takes up a lot of space. And you can see I've already done it. These gold wings or chest pieces here can get out of the way to give him a little bit more arm articulation. And so let's go ahead and do some comparisons, because I know that's something that people are going to want. First and foremost, I think people are going to want to see him compared to a Masterpiece Star Saber. because obviously Starsaber was his nemesis in the Transformers Victory, I think it was the series. And there's really no comparison. He is not at all tall enough to be compared with the Masterpiece Starsaber. He is not meant to scale with this guy. Who he's meant to scale with from a Starsaber standpoint is Planet X is actually releasing their version of Starsaber in the next few months, and I imagine that he's going to scale very well with Ismenios over here. So, but there you go. That's how he scales with the Masterpiece Starsaber. And just so you can see how he scales with one of the other larger figures that Planet X has released. Here he is with their Grimlock Vulcan. So they definitely have a thing for large, clear shields with Vulcan and Ismenios here both having one. But you can see Grimlock here, Vulcan, he's a big boy, but he is dwarfed compared to Ismenios over here. So if you've seen their Vulcan, or you have him, you can see just how big he is. Now another comparison that people want to see because of Deathsaurus' appearance in the IDW comics in The More Than Meets the Eye. There was a time when they were going after Megatron near the end of the More Than Meets the Eye series before it became the Lost Light, where he actually worked with Tarn. So here's Mastermind Creations Tarn, and you can see Tarn is quite a bit smaller, whereas they were represented much the same size from the few panels that you can see them in the comics. So some people might think he's a little bit too big. And Mastermind Creations is indeed making a version of Deathsaurus, but from the pictures that I saw, it looks to be roughly the same size as Ismenios over here, because I've got another comparison for you to show that. The picture that I saw showed their Mastermind Creations Deathsaurus, I'm not sure the name of it, compared to their Overlord, their Carnifex. So we've got that guy here too. He's a big one as well. I don't think he was necessarily made for that particular scale. He was made to tower over the other bots because of his Last Stand of the Wreckers appearance. But you can see where Ismenios is coming up to about chest level here on Carnifex, whereas I saw the Mastermind Creations actually looked a little bit taller. So if anything, I would say, you know, if you're going scale-wise with these three guys, if anything, I'd say Tarn is probably undersized based on these guys. But you know how scale works in Transformers. It's you do your best, but it's never gonna be perfect. And I don't know about you, but if I saw these three guys coming after me, I don't care if I'm Megatron or not. Well, maybe if I was Megatron, I wouldn't be too worried because, you know, Megatron is Megatron. But if I was pretty much anybody but Megatron and I saw these three guys coming after me, I'd be very scared. But yeah, so there's a good scale for you. More Than Meets the Eye, I want to say it was like the late 50s. It's down to like 53, 54 maybe. Like right before they switched over to the Lost Light. All right, so let's go ahead and get back over here to Ismenios, and we'll go ahead and give some final thoughts on this guy. Honestly, I'm a big fan of Planet X, so I knew I was going to definitely be picking this guy up. I'm definitely picking up his Starsaber counterpart, and so Planet X makes good stuff, and they certainly are living up to their name and their quality and their reputation with Ismenios here. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. This guy, especially with those wings engaged, just a huge presence on the shelf or wherever you do. I would just highly recommend taking out his pieces before you transform him. The shield thing, yeah, not that big a deal. I don't really need that. But it's there, and the only problem is it's great because you got one, but you're still left with the other side, and those other two little pieces don't really know what to do. So most likely all these pieces are probably going to end up back in the box as I display him here at like this. so he doesn't take up quite so much room. And with the sword, because the sword does look really, really nice. And the die cast that he's got on his arms, on his toes, I think maybe even his thighs, just really give a nice heft to the figure. His head, did we get close in on his head? Let's see if can we do that. Let's try to zoom it in. So yeah, I mean, look at that. I mean, they even got the whole 4 eyes there with the 2 normal eyes plus the 2 eyes above of his head, and the crest there. It's just amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. And if you're a fan of Deathsaurus, whether it's because of the Transformers Earth Wars game or because of the IDW comics or even G1, this guy is a excellent figure. Or if you're just a fan of Planet X in general, or I highly recommend this guy. He's a little pricey, so he's not necessarily going to be in everybody's price range, but if you can afford this guy, definitely highly recommend him. So I think that's all we're gonna do here. I really do appreciate everybody checking this out, and we'll be coming back with some more reviews, and we will be checking out his counterpart, their Planet X Starsaber, once he shows up in a few months. And that's going to do it. I'm Engineer Hoist. Keep rolling, my friends. See you next time.